My name is Rachel Morgan. The night my husband told me his daughter was none of my business, I had already paid $64,000 toward her tuition and living expenses. By sunrise, I would discover that a large part of that money had never reached her college. It began at my mother's 80th birthday dinner in Charlotte, North Carolina. I reserved a private room at Bellini's because Mom used a walker and struggled to hear in crowds. My sister Anna brought flowers. Noah drove from Greensboro after work. I ordered Mom's favorite chocolate cake myself. My husband, Victor Lang, arrived with me. His 22-year-old daughter, Chloe, was supposed to meet us at 7. She appeared at 7:43. Parking was impossible, she said. It was not. Half the lot was empty. Chloe sat beside Victor, placed her designer purse on an unused chair, and spent most of dinner answering messages. I had bought that purse for her previous birthday. I had also paid her apartment rent, car insurance, phone bill, and several tuition installments at Hampton Ridge College. Victor called it helping her recover from her parents' divorce. I called it trying to build a family. It began gradually. During our engagement, I paid a $280 dental bill when Chloe's insurance refused it. A few months later, I bought 2 textbooks. After the wedding, Victor suggested one shared monthly transfer would be simpler. The amount increased whenever Chloe needed something: a security deposit, new tires, sorority fees, or an emergency trip with classmates. Victor always presented each request separately, so I never saw the total at once. He also sent me screenshots of college portals and payment reminders. They made everything appear documented. Whenever I asked what he contributed, he said his cash was tied up in properties about to sell. They never did. After my first husband, David, died of a heart attack, I lived alone for 6 years. When Victor entered my life, he was attentive without appearing desperate. He remembered appointments, cooked when I worked late, and never complained when my mother needed help. We married after 18 months. At least, that was the man I believed I had married. Halfway through dinner, Noah asked Chloe about her final year at college. "It's easy when someone else handles the bills," she said, looking directly at me. Noah put down his fork. Victor laughed. "She's teasing." Chloe lifted her wine glass. A toast to Dad. He finally found a retirement plan with a house. The table became silent. My mother looked confused. Anna stared at Victor, waiting for him to say something. He smiled at Chloe as if she had delivered a clever line. "Apologize," I said. Chloe leaned back. "For a joke? For insulting me at my mother's birthday dinner?" Victor placed his hand over mine. "Enough, Rachel. She is not your daughter. You don't get to correct her." He did not whisper it. He wanted everyone at the table to hear. I looked at his hand until he removed it. "If she is not my daughter, I assume her expenses are not my responsibility." Chloe rolled her eyes, but Victor's face changed. For 1 second, he looked worried. That reaction mattered. I simply did not understand why yet. We finished the dinner for Mom's sake. I paid the remaining bill because the restaurant had my card. Outside, Noah asked if I wanted him to drive me home. I said no. At that point, I still believed I was dealing with a cruel comment, not financial deception. Victor waited until we reached Interstate 77 before speaking. "You humiliated Chloe. She called me your retirement plan. She is young. She is 22. He changed his argument immediately. "Her tuition payment is due Monday. Don't create a crisis because you are emotional." I turned toward the passenger window and said nothing. The timing of his concern bothered me. He had not defended our marriage or apologized for his daughter. He had mentioned Monday's payment. The next morning, I woke at 5:18. I own a bookkeeping company that manages payroll for 14 local businesses. Checking records is what I do when something feels wrong. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and downloaded 21 months of statements. At 5:56, I found the first unusual transfer. It was labeled Chloe Fall Tuition and totaled $9,200. The recipient was not Hampton Ridge College. It was Lang Property Ventures, Victor's development company. I found another for $8,400. Then a third 6 education transfers totaling $31,700 had entered Victor's business account. I checked the routing numbers against an old company invoice. They matched. At 6:20, I began canceling payments that came from my personal accounts. Chloe's allowance stopped first. Then her car payment, phone plan, insurance contribution, and access to my credit card. I redirected my company distributions to an account Victor could not use. I did not take money belonging to him. I stopped providing mine. At 6:47, Victor entered the kitchen holding his phone. "Why did I just receive 6 cancellation notices?" I turned the laptop around. "Why did Chloe's tuition go into your company?" He looked at the screen. His anger disappeared. That is a temporary holding account. Show me the balance. I can't access it from here. Your laptop is upstairs. He pulled out a chair and lowered his voice. Property development depends on cash flow. I moved the money briefly, then paid expenses as they became due. Which expenses? Rachel? You won't understand the structure. That was a poor answer to give a professional bookkeeper. I pushed a printed statement toward him. Then explain this one transaction. He stood up. You are trying to punish my daughter because she hurt your feelings. He left the house before answering. At 10:11, Chloe called. My card was declined. There was no greeting and no apology. I removed you as an authorized user. I'm at a boutique. I already had them wrap everything. Then asked them to unwrap it. You cannot cut me off without warning. Your father gave us both a warning last night. I am not your parent. She hung up. Within an hour, Victor's sister called me heartless. Chloe posted online that an insecure older woman was using money to control her. Victor sent 3 messages demanding that I restore the payments before Monday. None of them asked about the $31,700. That afternoon, Noah came to my office. He had driven 90 miles after Anna told him what happened. How much is missing? He asked. I don't know yet. Call a lawyer. I reacted badly. I told him he had disliked Victor from the beginning and was probably pleased to be right. Noah stared at me. I'm not pleased that someone may have stolen from my mother. He left before I could answer. The shame of that mistake stayed with me longer than Chloe's insult. The following morning, I met my bank manager, Susan Cole. She helped me review every payment originating from accounts in my name. The total exposure was $86,240. About half had paid legitimate household and college expenses. The rest had gone to Victor's company, a commercial lender in Atlanta, and an account ending in 4418 that I did not recognize. Susan printed a transaction report and asked me to identify each payment I remembered approving. I marked the tuition, rent, and insurance in green. I marked transfers Victor had described vaguely as education reserves in yellow. 7 withdrawals received no mark, because I had never seen them before. 2 had been initiated while I was visiting my mother after her surgery. 1 was processed on the morning of David's memorial service, when Victor knew I would not check my phone. Those dates removed any possibility that this was merely poor communication. Someone had chosen moments when my attention was elsewhere. Susan turned her monitor away and closed my file. I cannot investigate your husband's private account, she said. But if you did not authorize the purposes represented to you, speak to an attorney today. By 4 o'clock, I was sitting across from Priya Shah, a family law attorney recommended by one of my clients. Priya told me to freeze my credit, change my passwords, secure my company records, and preserve every message. She also told me not to accuse Victor of crimes we could not yet prove. After I authorized contact, the investment firm sent Priya a rejected ownership request I had never seen. Someone had submitted a request to add Victor as a joint owner of an investment account I had opened with David. The request had been rejected because the signature failed verification. The account contained $318,000. No money was transferred, Priya said. But whoever completed this form knew the account number and exact balance. Only Victor and I had seen the latest statement. When I confronted him, he barely looked at the copy. My assistant handles financial paperwork. Why would your assistant have this information? Maybe you gave it to me and forgot. It was the first time he questioned my memory. It was not the last. Over the next week, Victor became strangely calm. He moved into the guest room and spoke to me only when necessary. Around other people, however, he acted concerned. Our neighbor asked if I had been sleeping enough. A woman from church said Victor had mentioned that I was misplacing things. Then a client emailed to ask whether I intended to retire before the end of the year. I called her immediately. Why would you think I'm retiring? She hesitated. Victor said you had been confused lately. He told my husband you might reduce your workload. That was when I understood his plan. If I accused him of taking money, he would say I was mistaken. If I produced records, he would say I was confused. He was preparing witnesses before I could tell anyone what I had found. The pressure affected me physically. I slept 3 hours a night. My hands shook when I sorted statements. One evening, my back locked while I carried detergent downstairs. The bottle hit the floor and split open. I sat on the bottom step, surrounded by blue liquid, and called Anna. Tell me the truth, I said. Did everyone know what Victor was? No. Noah suspected him. Noah was protective. That is not the same as knowing. How did I miss it? Anna paused before answering. Because Victor was kind when he wanted to be. A man does not have to pretend every minute to deceive you. He only has to be believable when it matters. The next unexpected call came from Chloe. She asked to meet at a coffee shop near her college. I almost refused, but something in her voice had changed. She was already waiting when I arrived. She wore an old sweatshirt and her hair was tied back. There was no designer purse on the table. The college blocked my registration, she said. Dad keeps saying financing is coming, but he won't show me anything. I waited. She removed a folder from her backpack. He asked me to sign this. It was a statement declaring that I had knowingly invested Chloe's education money in Lang Property Ventures. According to the statement, all transfers had been discussed with me in advance. Did you sign it? No. Why not? Because he ignored my calls for 4 days. Then he answered when he needed my signature. She handed me printed emails. Victor had told her I planned to transfer my house into his name. He claimed I wanted him to control my company if I died. He had even promised that she would never need student loans because my estate would cover everything. One email ended with a sentence I read 3 times. Once Rachel signs the new documents, neither of us will have to ask her permission again. I never agreed to any of this, I said. Chloe looked frightened. He said Noah had already received his inheritance. Noah has received nothing. My house is held in trust for him. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then I asked the question that had bothered me since dinner. Did your father tell you to make that retirement plan joke? Her face answered before she did. He said you had become too controlling about money. He said if we embarrassed you a little, you would try harder to prove you loved us. The insult had not been spontaneous. It had been pressure. Chloe began crying. I did not immediately comfort her. You still chose to say it, I told her. You used my card, accepted my money, and treated me like an obstacle. I know. Bringing these documents was right. It does not erase everything else. She nodded. I understand. For the first time since I had known her, she did not argue. Priya contacted Victor's former wife, Melissa Lang. Melissa had kept 12 years of records from their marriage and divorce. She described the same pattern. Victor used her inheritance to cover development losses. When she demanded statements, he told relatives she was unstable. Melissa also identified the unknown account ending in 4418. It belonged to a firm collecting money Victor still owed under their divorce settlement. Some of the money I believed was paying Chloe's tuition had actually been paying Victor's debt to Chloe's mother. Priya called it useful evidence. I called it the moment my marriage ended. Before we could file, Victor made another move. One of my largest clients, 74-year-old Henry Collins, asked me to visit his office. His company employed 86 people, and I had managed its payroll for 13 years. Henry played a voicemail Victor had left the previous evening. I hate to interfere, Victor said in the recording, but Rachel has shown signs of memory loss. Nothing serious yet. You may want to move payroll before an employee gets hurt financially. The message lasted 23 seconds. Henry placed his phone on the desk. My wife died after 8 years with Alzheimer's, he said. I know what early cognitive decline looks like. You are not showing it. He gave me the recording and signed a statement confirming when he received it. Priya listened without interrupting. This voicemail does not prove he submitted the investment form, she said. It proves he tried to damage your business while you were questioning his financial conduct. The next morning, Priya filed to protect my property and disputed assets while preserving Victor's electronic records for forensic review. Once Victor received the papers, his behavior changed again. The angry messages stopped. Flowers appeared in the kitchen. He cooked dinner and left it warming in the oven. He apologized for allowing tension to get out of control, though he never admitted taking money. For 4 days, he acted like the man I had trusted. On the 5th evening, he opened his briefcase. Inside were refinancing documents for Lang Property Ventures. Victor needed $410,000 to prevent foreclosure on a development site. The proposed collateral was my house. Sign this, and I can replace everything, he said. Chloe can return to college. We can withdraw the lawyers and start again. I looked at the flowers, the dinner, and the carefully folded blanket he had left on my chair. This is why you have been kind. I am trying to save our family. You are trying to save your company. He leaned forward. David would have helped his family. Victor had never met my first husband. Using his name ended any doubt I had left. I closed the folder. Do not use the man I buried to obtain my signature. Victor left for a hotel and surrendered his keys. The next morning, Noah changed the locks. I apologized for what I had said in my office. I thought you would see me as stupid, I told him. I saw you as lonely, he replied. Those are not the same thing. 2 weeks later, Victor was scheduled to receive the Carolinas Business Leadership Award. I had agreed months earlier to introduce him because several of my clients belonged to the organization. Even after our separation became public, Victor told the organizers I would attend. He said our problems resulted from stress and had been resolved privately. Priya advised me not to make accusations. She told me to state only what documents could prove. On the morning of the luncheon, Noah drove me to the hotel. Nearly 200 business owners, lenders, accountants, and contractors filled the ballroom. Henry attended as a member. Chloe came as Victor's daughter. Both carried the evidence. Victor met me near the entrance and kissed my cheek while a photographer watched. I knew you would come, he whispered. I said I would. Smile. People need to see that you are well. That sentence confirmed what I needed to do. When my name was announced, I walked to the podium. I was invited to introduce Victor Lang, I said. I cannot honestly do that today. I explained that I had filed for separation after tracing money from my personal accounts into Victor's company. I said an unauthorized investment request remained under investigation. I also confirmed that a court had ordered financial records preserved for forensic review. I did not call him a thief. I did not mention motives. I stated documented facts. Victor walked toward the microphone. Rachel is under severe emotional strain, he told the room. Her memory has been unreliable, and our family has been trying to protect her privacy. Several people looked at me differently. Then Henry Collins stood. Victor, you left me a voicemail saying the same thing. He played the recording through the ballroom's microphone. When it ended, Henry said, You were not protecting your wife. You were asking me to remove her from my company's payroll account. Before Victor could respond, Chloe rose from a table near the back. He asked me to sign a false statement, she said. He told me Rachel had approved the transfers. She had not. She placed copies of the emails and unsigned statement on the organization president's table. The president called a recess. 20 minutes later, he announced that Victor's award had been suspended pending an ethics review. There was no cheering. One lender left without speaking to Victor. A contractor who had been waiting to shake his hand walked past him. His reputation did not collapse in a dramatic explosion. It weakened as people began checking what he had told them. The forensic audit took 4 months. It traced $42,600 of my funds into Victor's business and personal obligations. Investigators could not establish who physically signed the rejected investment form, so no criminal charge resulted from it. The civil evidence was stronger. The audit also explained why Victor had been so frightened when I stopped the automatic payments. His company account had less than $3,000 available, 2 loans were overdue, and Chloe's car payment had been covered with money transferred from me 3 days earlier. He had been moving each new deposit toward the most urgent demand. There was no education reserve and no temporary investment strategy. He was using my predictable income to keep several failing obligations from defaulting at the same time. The accountant prepared a schedule showing the movement of every traceable dollar. Victor disputed the labels but could not produce invoices, meeting notes, or messages proving I had approved the transfers. His own records showed that he had classified 2 of them as owner contributions from himself. Victor settled before trial. I recovered most of the traceable money, although legal and accounting fees consumed a significant part of it. The divorce became final 14 months after Mom's birthday dinner. Victor sold his Mercedes and later lost the development he had tried to secure with my house. I did not cause that loss. His creditors did. Chloe withdrew from college for 1 semester, moved in with Melissa, and began working at a bookstore. She signed a repayment agreement for the personal purchases made on my card. We met monthly to review payments. 6 months later, she apologized without asking for forgiveness. I thought your generosity meant you would never say no, she said. So did your father. My relationship with her did not become perfect. Real relationships rarely change that quickly. But she returned to college using loans and part-time income, and she stopped expecting other people to finance her choices. I repaired my roof, resumed physical therapy, and moved my office into the room Victor once used to store development plans. Noah helped me paint it. The important moment was not the canceled award or the divorce settlement. It happened at 5:56 on the morning after Mom's birthday when I stopped arguing with Victor's version of events and checked the account numbers myself. He had told me Chloe was not my daughter. He expected that boundary to apply only to respect, never to money. I accepted the boundary completely. That was the one financial decision Victor never expected me to make.